Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Hard Count podcast. And today we're going to be going over my top 10 quarterbacks for next NFL season. So let's go over my criteria, what I'm going to be ranking these guys on. And it's 4 categories. I've got accuracy, getting the ball to the guy you're trying to throw to. I think it's very important. I think it's the most important thing for a quarterback. We look at it, and all the best quarterbacks are all often the most accurate quarterbacks. Next, arm strength. There's 2 ways you can define this here, and that's how far you can throw the ball, or accuracy deep, and also velocity. How fast can you get the ball in there, get the ball into a tight spot with the receiver? Some guys do it much better than others. And then third, arm talent. Can you throw on the run? Can you throw at multiple different angles, under pressure, off balance, off your back leg, all those things. And then finally is ability. And, we see mobility in all shapes and forms. We've got it, guys who can really move around the pocket. And then you have special cases like Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, guys who can really run down the field, opens up the offense in all sorts of ways. So those are my 4 criteria for these quarterbacks. Those are the main things I'm looking at. There's a couple of other things that if they do well, it's bonus points, or if they do poorly, it's taking off points. But let's get right into it. My 10th quarterback, and that is Matt Ryan. So this is the first guy on my list. I think I was struggling between a couple guys here. I left off 2 barely. Kyler Murray and Ryan Tannehill. I love both of those guys. I think they're very good. But I decided to put Matt Ryan above them, and here's why. I love Matt Ryan because I think he's consistent in all situations on the field. Accuracy is good in all spots, outside the numbers, inside the numbers, short, deep, intermediate, anything. He's really pretty consistent. I think he's very good in that aspect. Some guys are consistent in some areas and some not so much. Well, what we also look at is we see Matt Ryan is very good in a clean pocket, which you might be like, oh, does he need the offensive line? But he's also pretty solid when he's under pressure as well, so I'm not going to take too many points off there. So I like that he's not completely reliant on the clean pocket, which some guys are, and I think that's a big negative. And I think when you look at Matt Ryan, you're like, oh, 7-9 team, but that's not what you're looking at. You're looking at a very good offense with a struggling defense. You can't hold that against Matt Ryan. So I think he's very accurate. He has a good arm, not the most mobile of guys, but I think he's very interesting to me. I'm excited to see what he does next year in Atlanta. We saw them get out, come to life at the end of last year. But Matt Ryan will have to be a big part of it. I don't really have too much to say about Matt Ryan because I think he doesn't do anything too exceptional. He's above average in almost every aspect of a quarterback's game. So that's why I got to put him here at 10 above some of the other guys. So then at number 9, I have Dak Prescott. I'm not sure if the Cowboys fans are going to think this is too low, too high, or just right, but I think it's just right for him. A guy like Dak Prescott, I can't really put him any higher on this list because I just don't think he elevates the people around him like everyone else on this list. He is very good at what he does for the Cowboys, though. He is very good at making a play when everything goes right. When things do go right, he is very accurate. He throws the ball with good velocity, gets it to his receivers. He throws a great deep ball as well. But going back to him not elevating those weapons, I think we look at it and what happens when the play breaks down. Things don't go as planned, and he does not have those guys around him making those plays that he needs to succeed. And I think he becomes almost a poor starting quarterback at that point. Under pressure, his accuracy drops quite a bit. And when he has a clean pocket, he's one of the best in the league. But when he doesn't, he's one of the bottom 10 in the league. So, and also in the red zone, things get a little more compact. You need to throw into a little bit tighter windows. He is, again, much worse in his production. So I think Dak does a good job for the Cowboys because oftentimes things are just right. He can always rely on Zeke. He can always rely on that top 5 offensive line. Amari Cooper getting open. He's never really put in hugely uncomfortable situations, so I think that works great. But when we stack him up against these other guys, which we're doing here in this rankings, other quarterbacks, and think about how Dak would really fare in Seattle, Detroit, I think 9 is a fair spot to put him. Not too high, not too low. But I like Dak. I just don't think he elevates his weapons like everyone else on this list, and I think he would struggle in worse situations. And at number 8, Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think he's super underrated. He's elite. I don't really care what anybody says. And people are going to be like, oh, he doesn't win. He doesn't win. But I think you can honestly make the argument that the only reason the Lions are winning is because of Matthew Stafford. He had 28th ranked defense in DVOA, below average offensive line, poor run game last season. And we take a look, I think Matthew Stafford has a top 3 arm in the game. He reminds me, he puts really good velocity on every single ball. He reminds me a lot of Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, the ability to make that big play. And I think that's a huge thing we look for because, when you need that big play, he's there for you. He can get it done. I'm very excited to watch this offense this season also. I think Matt Stafford's going to have a great year. Hopefully we see him healthy. But he's got those guys like Kenny Galladay, who I expect to have a great season, Marvin Jones. And I think Stafford last year would have finished top 3 or 4 in the MVP race if he was able to play all last season. He's got a tremendous arm. And the only reason Stafford isn't really higher is because I think he has some occasional accuracy issues. And also, he is not the most mobile of quarterbacks. Other guys above him might be some more accurate or maybe a little more mobile. But I think Matthew Stafford is very underrated and a huge aspect of Detroit and them really getting any wins. And if they want success in the future, it's going to have to be based around Matthew Stafford. And now at number 7, we have Drew Brees. And some people, again, might say too high, might say too low. But I think Drew Brees is the 7th best quarterback in the NFL at this point in his career. Of course, we know he's one of the all-time greats. Tom Brady and him, both legends in today's game. But we all know the strong points in Brees' game. Most accurate quarterback in NFL history, and that is huge. It's the biggest aspect of a quarterback's game. So that's big points there for Drew Brees. Also look at it, and he is extremely quick to make good decisions at this point in his career. He's very smart. So that's also very good. And so that also makes that his mobility, which is not the best at age 41, it's not as big of a knock because he's able to get the ball out quickly. So that's very good for Drew Brees. But I have a lot of questions. And this is why I don't have him much higher on the list. Drew Brees, I think he's losing that ability to make the big play. We were just talking about Matthew Stafford. He's there. He can get you that big play when you need it. Drew Brees, really not. So that's a concern there for me. We look at it and see Brees has a top 5 offensive line, best receiver in the league last year, Michael Thomas, the best offensive mind in football, Sean Payton. And Michael Thomas, he runs wide open in the middle of the field, the most yards on slant routes last year. And Drew Brees does not really have his weaknesses exposed because of that offensive line gives him time to throw. He doesn't have to, move out of the pocket. He doesn't have to be mobile in there because he has time to throw and he makes quick decisions. And then Michael Thomas, he's always in the middle of the field running short or intermediate routes. Brees is not asked to run. He doesn't need to throw into those tight windows, which I know that he can do, but he also doesn't need to throw deep. So I think Drew Brees makes fewer mistakes than almost anyone in the NFL, but I believe that this is often a result of him being in almost a perfect position to succeed. And I still have him up here, though, because, again, he's the most accurate quarterback in history. He makes good decisions, and he is a great leader. But when you start thinking of him in some other situations where his weaknesses might be exposed, he can't just, play all his strong suits, I think it would be a bit of a struggle for Drew Brees. So that's why I've got him here at 7. And now at number 6, one of my favorite guys, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. I think he's underrated. Carson Wentz. He's tremendous. We saw last year, final stretch of the season, he took that Philadelphia team with terrible weapons, completely elevated it and brought it to the playoffs. So it was very impressive, and that just solidified my view of Carson Wentz as a top 10 quarterback, and here he is sitting at 6 in my rankings. He's a guy that you look at the stats, he's not going to blow you away. He's not going to blow you away with the completion percentage, his touchdowns, his yards, but he's a tremendous arm. He can throw out many angles, and I think the way he elevates his teammates is really only rivaled by the guy that's number 1 on this list. So I think Wentz is a guy who's produced just as much as the guys I listed before, but with much worse weapons. And as I stated, Wentz has a great arm strength, great arm talent, great mobility. He's a great leader. And those are a bunch of the categories that I listed before. But, the only issue, the only knock that I have, he's not the most accurate of quarterbacks, but I think he makes up for it with all of the great points he has everywhere else in his game, and he's not terribly accurate either. So I really like Carson Wentz. I'm excited to see a full season from here. That fully healthy Eagles squad, which it was definitely not last year. So I'm really excited for that. And again, Wentz, a guy that isn't going to wow you with the stats, wow you with the touchdowns, but he is very talented all around. He's a great leader. He elevates his weapons. And so I really love Carson Wentz, and that's why I have him here at 6. At number 5, I don't know. I think many people will be upset. I think it's going to be too low for some people. I have Lamar Jackson, the 2019 to 2020 MVP. I think he deserves this 5 spot. I think it's just right for him. We all know what makes Lamar so dangerous. His legs. He set the NFL all-time record for rushing yards in a season by a quarterback last year. We look at it, his ability to evade danger in the pocket. I think it's only really matched by Deshaun Watson, but his mobility outside is one of a kind, able to make people miss, opens so much. That read option is a threat that is unique to the Ravens, and it's so huge, it opens so many things up. You got Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown who are able to run free one-on-one, and that's huge. But we all knew that Lamar could run at the end of 2018, but what really boosts him up on this list is his ability to throw. I mean, it's crazy. He just came out of nowhere. He's 6th in accuracy rating, and he was able to put it in the right spot most of the time. And I think he really is one of the most dangerous throwers inside the numbers in the league. And he certainly showed that last year. I'm excited to see if he develops this passing anymore. The only thing really preventing me from putting Lamar Jackson any higher on this list, he struggles throwing outside the numbers a little bit. We've seen it. He misses, throws wide, and maybe we'll see some improvements. I'm not ruling it out. But for now, he has not shown us that elite ability to throw on all areas of the field. And also, we saw some struggles on obvious passing downs, which is a key point if you want to do well in the playoffs. So another thing that's positive about Lamar is his ability to throw at all angles and on the move, which we hadn't seen last year. If he'd done that, it would have been atrocious. But I expect Lamar to progress again as a passer next year. Maybe we'll see some improvements on obvious passing downs. We'll see some improvements throwing outside the numbers. But for now, he's at 5. He's a special player that makes the Ravens Super Bowl contenders for next year, and I'm excited to see his development for the future. So at number 4, I have Aaron Rodgers. And many people might be questioning the decision to put Aaron Rodgers over last year's MVP, Lamar Jackson. But I think that the idea that Aaron Rodgers is falling off or not as good as he used to be, or his numbers are down, I think is completely overblown. He is still tremendous. Everything that made him great 5-6 years ago, he's still great at. I think we all look, his style of play really just fits where the NFL is going. Guys with big arms that are mobile in the pocket can make all those throws. Patrick Mahomes is the future of the NFL, everyone says, and he's basically Aaron Rodgers, but younger. So I don't understand why people are criticizing Aaron Rodgers when they love Patrick Mahomes. I think Aaron Rodgers is very accurate as well, 7th in accuracy rating. When he needs to make that big play, I don't know if there's anyone that I would trust more than Aaron Rodgers. I think his weapons aren't as poor as everyone says. Devontae Adams, this year he's going to have Devin Funchess. He's got a good run game. Offensive line is pretty solid, so I don't really like that argument for Aaron Rodgers. But he has certainly shown his ability to, get it to his guys, even when they aren't creating too much separation. And again, going back to it, he makes the big plays. He's thrown the most money throws in the league last year, And I think that perfectly describes who Aaron Rodgers is as a quarterback and who he has been his entire career. And that is a big-time thrower. And so that's why I have Aaron Rodgers here at number 4. And at number 3, might shock some people, Patrick Mahomes. And quick, before you call me out as a hater or stupid, just hear me out. I know Mahomes is great. 3 is a good placement here. And he has shown us over the past couple of years, as we all know, and he won Super Bowl 54 last year. I do see Mahomes as the future of the future of the NFL. And I do expect him to continue with his success and probably finish higher on this list next year, as I expect him to improve. You know, I think Mahomes is the prototype for what you want in a quarterback in 2020. Athletic, strong arm, can throw in all situations, and is clutch when his team needs him the most. And I think, but let's go over some of these things. I love Mahomes' ability to throw off balance, off his back leg, on the run, maybe better than anyone else in the league. And another thing that is positive for Mahomes in today's game is that he's a huge deep ball threat. And you pair him up with all those weapons in Kansas City, it creates one of the most deadly offenses in the NFL. And that is what led them to an NFL championship last year. Mahomes is extremely good in the deep ball completion percentage, which is 3rd in deep ball completion percentage, which is very good, as well as under pressure. He is 5th in completion percentage. I think the issue for me here, though, is that the completion percentage does not tell the whole story. We just look at the stats, but when I watch Mahomes play, I actually see an accuracy issue. You know, oftentimes he'll just chuck it up, and Tyreek Hill will come back 5 yards, jump over his cornerback, do something crazy, and it'll count as a completion for Patrick Mahomes when really it was a bad throw. It could have been intercepted, and Tyreek Hill bailed him out. So that is why I don't like just looking at the completion percentage. And he's ranked 14th in accuracy rating, which is not bad but for somebody who most people consider the best quarterback in the NFL. I think it's kind of underwhelming because it's the biggest piece of an NFL quarterback, and he is not, and that is the weakest part of his game, in my opinion. I mean, I think these production numbers, again, which everyone brings up, are heavily inflated by his weapons. Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman. These are the best weapons in the league for any quarterback. So what sometimes ends up happening is those numbers are so big, Mahomes gets all the credit, but then you look at all the guys on that field, and they were really the reason all those plays happened. I know Mahomes is great. Again, as I went back, reiterating, athletic, strong, can throw in all situations, and is clutch. But accuracy is the only issue here, and that's the biggest thing. So again, all these guys are separated by very little, but the reason I don't have them higher is because I would like to see some more accuracy out of Mahomes, and because of the weapons, I think, inflate his production a little bit. So at number 2, Deshaun Watson. And I know many people would be shocked to see that I have him better than Mahomes, but I think it's really true. I think the only real argument here against Watson and for Mahomes is that Watson has not succeeded in the playoffs like Mahomes has, but if we just watch them play, Watson is a better quarterback. Watson throws the best deep ball in the game. He puts the ball in places where only his receiver can get it, and I think the difference here, Mahomes will barely miss a throw, and Watson will hit that throw. So, as you can see, with Mahomes, Rodgers, Lamar, Deshaun Watson now, the guys higher on the list are athletic, mobile in the pocket, and again, Deshaun Watson's the epitome of this. His ability to evade pressure is only really paralleled by Lamar Jackson, as we were talking about earlier. His ability to throw at angles, off balance, very similar to Mahomes. And Watson, I think, is just more accurate on all of those throws, and that's why I have him above Mahomes. So you can say that Mahomes does more with similar weapons because Watson, yes, he had those great receivers, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, Kenny Stills. But Watson was often forced to make much more difficult throws than Patrick Mahomes was forced to make. His offensive line was the 6th worst in pass blocking in the league, according to DVOA. And DeAndre Hopkins is a great receiver, but he's not the fastest guy. often, Deshaun Watson was often forced to throw into some tight windows there for DeAndre Hopkins. So the biggest concern, really the only reason that Deshaun Watson is knocked, again, those playoff struggles, and also he sometimes tries to make a play that isn't there happen, or tries to extend a play farther than it needs to be extended. So, which causes a higher amount of danger plays and interceptable passes. But I think if you give Watson, Andy Reid, and those weapons, I think you would have even better production than what Mahomes puts up. So that is why I have Watson above Mahomes. Sorry if you disagree with it, but I think he's just better. So now let's get to my number one quarterback, the best quarterback in the league, Russell Wilson. And I think you can just put Wilson here in a tier of his own almost. I think he just stands out to me as the best quarterback in the NFL. He's so good. He just, in all areas, he elevates his weapons better than anyone in the league. And I don't think it's very close. Last season, he was given the 24th best offensive line in the league and a running game that absolutely collapsed at the end of the year. And his number one receiver was Tyler Lockett, who is good but not great. And this team finished 11-5 and made the playoffs. So what was the reason for that? It was Russell Wilson. I think he's the definition of a guy you want on your team. He's a great leader, can make all the throws, one of the best deep balls in the game. He's one of the most accurate throwers in the game as well. He's mobile, tremendous at throwing off balance on the run when he's in a bad situation. He just going through that checks all of my boxes. And so to add on to it, he makes the second most big-time throws in the league, and then follows it up by putting only up 9 interceptable passes up all year, which was unmatched by anyone that threw as much as Russell Wilson did. So what really impresses me about Wilson is his ability to throw into tight windows so frequently and so effectively. And none of his guys are top-tier receivers either, but he makes them look like top-tier receivers. Perfect example, Will Dissly, second-year, fourth-round tight end. Wilson makes him into one of the best tight ends in the league, or at least look like one of the best tight ends in the league. And so, again, Russell Wilson, top tier, best quarterback in the league. He's the epitome of what you want in a quarterback, and there's no question to me that he is the best quarterback in the NFL. So now that we're done, let's recap it one more time. At number 10, Matt Ryan. Number 9, Dak Prescott. Number 8, Matthew Stafford. Number 7, Drew Brees. Number 6, Carson Wentz. Number 5, Lamar Jackson. Number 4, Aaron Rodgers. Number 3, Patrick Mahomes. Number 2, Deshaun Watson. And number 1, Russell Wilson. Hopefully there'll be a graphic up here of all of those names in order. And yeah, thanks so much for listening. Comment down below what you agree with, what you disagree with. I'm sure many people have some strong feelings about this one. So feel free to leave your opinions. Bash me in the comments, give a like, dislike. Thanks so much for listening this far. And that was it for the podcast. Thank you. Peace.